Oh, it does show. Cool.
What does it do?
In the corner, it'll show us like if people start joining.
Okay. I think we'll give it till maybe 6:02 and see if folks come and join our live, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, I'm like,
Give it a couple minutes.
we're free flowing. It's fine.
I love that.
You got my little penguin in the background. I forgot. I totally forgot to move him.
I hate dead space, which
I
is
was
funny
thinking,
because I went to school to study therapy, right? Like I practiced therapy like under supervision for a little while in grad school, and it's so funny because so much of that time I had to like sit with and be with, and it was quiet. And now that I'm not actively practicing that anymore, I can't dead space.
how was that? I remember you telling me you did this.
It was a time.
Okay.
It was a time. I always wanted to do policy work, so I'm glad to be here at IBBG doing policy work. But it was always my end goal.
I'm one of those people who doesn't mind dead silence.
Mm.
So I'm like, I can sit in silence all day.
This is like when I break out my weird facts. Like,
Did you know?
Nobody wants that, but that's me at any side. Did you know?
You're like a Snapple cap, just ready to go.
All right, it is 6:02. If folks end up joining this live, y'all are more than welcome to. This will be recorded too, so if you don't catch this very beginning and my weird did you know facts, you're not missing too much here. Welcome to IBBG's Love and Legislation 2024 Love and Legislation Reunion wrap-up situation. We're so excited for the end of the legislative session, and we're so excited and proud of all of the work that we've done this legislative session. So over the next hour, Aaliyah and I will talk a little bit about IBBG. If you aren't familiar, if you need a recap, we'll tell you a little bit about ourselves. We'll tell you about our priority bills and what we were able to see passed, what still needs a little bit of work. And then we also have some special guests on this reunion special. So we'll pull in some folks who also are really closely connected to the Nebraska legislature so they can tell you about their exciting wins. And I think we'll wrap up with just what are we looking forward to in the next year? What are we working on in the interim? And kind of move forward that way. Aaliyah, does that sound good?
Sounds perfect.
Cool. So, IBBG, right? We are the first and only reproductive justice organization in Nebraska that centers Black women, femmes, and girls. If you aren't terribly familiar with us, we know that Black women, femmes, and girls are the energy and the essence, and we recognize that there are gradients in our stories and experiences. So, IBBG really exists to uplift those stories. And we do this through 4 of our focus areas. So the first is Black-led investments, that money. We work to provide resources and support folks at the helm of social movement. So folks who are really ingrained in their community and doing this work, IBBG uses Black-led investments to uplift them and support them in that way. Our second focus area is birth justice. This is IBBG's biggest portfolio of work. We do movement work in this portfolio to disrupt systems of oppression and disrupt systems that perpetuate maternal health disparity, and really work to create an environment where all Black birthing people just don't just survive, but they thrive, that they're healthy, that they have the resources and the support they need. Some of that work bleeds into our policy work as well, and we'll get into that. But really, birth justice is a huge part of what we do here at IBBG. Third is economic freedom. So we work with programs like our Catalyst program. These programs exist to uplift Black businesses and Black entrepreneurs and Black business owners. The Catalyst program is incredible. There are some really great businesses and entrepreneurs that come out of that program, products that not only IBBG loves it. Also, we love personally. Aaliyah and I are always talking about.
Man. Shout out to Destiny from the last cohort.
Yes.
Her Italian ice is so good.
So good.
Everyone from that cohort still like they had their like rap session and everyone was like, so did you bring it? Like, she brought it to the first one. But it's so good, and everyone in that cohort was so amazing and just so talented and intelligent. So it's cool to see Black women in that space and thriving.
And there are so many Black women in the city who are doing really, really cool and great things. So we love to support them and uplift them and be in community with them, right? Even if that's just stopping by their shops too. And then finally, IBUG's last focus area is Aaliyah and myself's program. It is advocacy. So in our advocacy program, we focus on building Black political power to address harm and chart new experiences for Black folks. We do this in a whole bunch of different ways, but we'll spend most of today talking about our legislative work. We also do direct work with community partners. We do direct work with systems. So we've done some work with Nebraska Corrections. We've done some work or with the Nebraska City Council. So just all of these things really holistically to think about advocacy on a large scale and a small scale too. And I think that kind of wraps up IBBG in a nutshell. We've got a killer website that's brand new, so you can check that out for more information. Shout out to Aaliyah and Raven for their work on that. So good.
It gets so cute. I like going on and scrolling. It's very cute.
Yeah.
And our team is cute. So
our team is cute. So real tea, it's not that often that you like go to an organization's page and you go to their like about staff or their about team like page and you scroll and it's just Black women. I remember when I first started at IBBG, I saw that and I was like, I've never seen that before.
I'm like the baddest team in the land. You feel me?
So we'll move a little bit forward here and we'll spend some time moving away from that introduction and we'll spend some time getting right into the heart of it. I will say that sometimes when we talk about legislative stuff, it can get a little bit jargony or it can be incredibly inaccessible. And I think something that Aaliyah and I are both really passionate about is breaking these things down as simple as we can get them so that folks can understand, so that you all can have the information that you need, and also so we can know what's happening in our community and what work is still left to do. Is that anything else?
Yeah, I think that was like a good route.
Cool.
I'm like, we're doing our best to like make it digestible.
Make it easy. And I think that leads us really nicely. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, even us sometimes will be like, what do you mean?
Like, what?
What was said? So, doing our best.
So our first bill and our biggest bill that we want to talk to you about at the wrap up of this session is LB 1278. This is IBBG's like major priority bill in 2024, and it was our doula reimbursement bill. If you follow IBBG on social media or have followed us over the past couple of months, I'm sure you've seen posts about this bill and what this bill would mean to so many women, but I'll give you a little backstory here, a little recap. So we know, it's not a surprise, that disparities in maternal health outcomes disproportionately affect Black women, Indigenous people, Brown folks, period, right? Like we have disproportionate outcomes for a lot of maternal health policy or maternal health issues. We also know by being in community, from partner organizations, from studies that have been done, that doulas can help disrupt some of the harm that families experience, and they can also help reduce some of those disparities as well. Doulas provide emotional support, physical support, informational support to folks who are birthing at every stage during pregnancy. So in the pregnancy experience and childbirth, during postpartum, right, doulas are there kind of for it all. LB 1278 was our bill that would make sure that doulas are reimbursed through Medicaid. So we at IBBG believes that anybody who wants a doula should have access to a doula, and LB 1278 was our effort in making sure that doulas get paid through Medicaid so that they are even more accessible. So we're really grateful for Senator McKinney because he introduced this bill for us. He was a great sponsor for this bill and did a lot of really wonderful work on it, as well as his staff. Like, I can't tell you how many times I emailed Senator McKinney's staff asking for help on this. This bill had a really great hearing. We had over a dozen community partners, doctors, doulas, folks who have used doulas. Several of IBG's staff themselves testified about their experience. It was an incredible hearing. Unfortunately, this bill did not make it out of committee, so there's still time for this bill, the work behind this bill, to continue. This bill was stuck in committee. I think some of our work around this and next steps will be about making sure that folks have accurate information, making sure that senators are informed about what doulas are, what doulas do, and what doulas don't do. And I think that we've worked really hard to get languaging around this bill that we're proud of, languaging around this bill that makes sense and fits within Nebraska law. So although this bill did not pass this legislative session, don't be surprised if it comes back in future years, because this is an issue that we've committed ourselves to. This is an issue that we will not stop fighting for until we see it in Nebraska. Leah, anything to add on 1278?
I think 1278, honestly, if we bring it back, or when we do, because honestly, I feel like we will, I think it has a really good shot. I think we came in during a short session, so we had a little bit more work to do, but now we know the landscape. We know what's going on. We saw the support. We saw the feedback from everyone who was just learning about what a doula is, because I feel like a lot of people don't understand the importance of a doula, especially for Black birth outcomes. So I'm excited about that one and seeing it come back and continuing to work for that, especially with our doula program. They're doing such amazing work and they deserve to be paid for that work.
For sure. I remember that hearing for me was one of the most impactful hearings in all of my time doing legislative work for me, just because it hits different when you see other Black women, femmes stand up and share their experience. Like, that could so easily be me, right? And I think that hits different in a lot of different ways. And this is such an important policy. So I think you're right. It'll come back. It'll be better and bigger than ever. And, we'll move it through.
We'll have a little bit to do, but we'll get there.
Get there. So we had IBBG, for context, had 4 priority bills this session. LB 1278 was our first one. LB 913 was our second one. This was introduced by Senator Megan Hunt, and it's a bill that would help Nebraska take a major step in ensuring that postpartum health care is available for all folks who need it, which we know is critical in keeping babies and families and communities in Nebraska healthy. And LB 913 would do that by extending CHIP coverage, and I'll break that down a little bit further. So CHIP, or the Child Health Insurance Program, is a program for pregnant folks who do not qualify for Medicaid because their income is above the federal poverty level. So if your income is a little bit above the federal poverty level and you do not qualify for Medicaid, you may, if you are a pregnant person, qualify for CHIP. To qualify for CHIP, you also can be a minor whose parents don't qualify for Medicaid due to their household income, or you can be a pregnant person who doesn't qualify for Medicaid due to their immigration status. So it's this federal program that really works to capture folks who might be just on the edge of not receiving Medicaid and provides that coverage for folks who might need it. It's technically called 599 CHIP, and 599 CHIP has been around for quite a while. I think currently, as the law operates, or previous to 2024, as the law operates, a pregnant person who qualified for health insurance coverage through CHIP would lose that service the month that the child is born. So I'll break that down even further. If you have a child on, what's today? If you have a child on May 9th, you would have health insurance coverage up until May 30th. Wait, are there 30 or 31 days in May?
31.
May, you'd have health coverage until the end of May, right? But if you were to birth that child on May 29th, your health insurance coverage would end, if it's the 30th, it would end that very next day. And I think that has major health implications if you think about it. Say you have pregnancy complications for either yourself or your child, you could have an extended hospital stay that may not be covered under Medicaid, or under CHIP, I'm sorry. And I think this piece of legislation, LB 913, would bring these folks who are eligible for this program up to the speed of what we did last legislative session when we extended Medicaid coverage, postpartum Medicaid coverage, right? When DHHS did that. Mm-hmm. So This bill, I'm really happy to say, was amended into another bill, LB 62, and it was withdrawn before final reading. So it was amended into another bill. It looked like it would go really far, but unfortunately, that bill was removed from the bill it was amended to for final reading. So there's still some work around this legislation that needs to be done in next year or future years. But I think we're really hopeful. I think this is another thing where Nebraskans care about postpartum coverage. We saw from the hearing when we extended it for Medicaid recipients, we saw when DHHS decided to extend postpartum coverage. We know that folks care about this, so I'm sure it'll come back again.
Well, and I think the landscape right now, people are very concerned about their health care and their access to care in general, just because what you're seeing with pregnant folks is
I also like, you know? Maybe a little bit messy, maybe a little out of pocket, but like if our state leadership says that they care about women and families, right? Doesn't it make sense to provide healthcare coverage for those women, birthing folks, and families?
Well, you know, Taylor, that's such a good idea. It's incredible that you would think of something like that. It's almost like it makes sense.
It's almost like it makes sense.
It's almost like it's the natural progression of caring about women and children to give them health care. That's kind of crazy.
We'll get there. Messy, but I believe in Nebraska. I believe in the work that can be done. You know, all of those things are true. I believe in the advocates that have fought for this issue, and I think that we'll get there. And I think it's aligned with like the values of the state that we claim to have.
Yeah, I agree. And I think even this like session, there was support for it, and you saw it coming back. And I think the fact that it even was amended into LB 62, which was Kavanaugh,
it's such a good bill.
Work. It's a really good bill. So I'm hoping that we continue to see things like that coming forward and being worked on, because those are the issues that actually matter to Nebraskans.
We have two more bills that we focused on. One was LB 857. So this is a Senator Dungin bill. Excuse me. In Nebraska in 2021, about 1 in 9 babies were born preterm, and about 1 in 13 babies were born with low birth weight. So this bill works to address some of that. We know that both preterm and babies born with low birth weight face higher health challenges that can last across the lifespan. So LB 857 created the Prenatal Plus program, which offers additional services for pregnant folks on Medicaid who are at risk for these kinds of birth outcomes. So LB 857 provides additional healthcare services and just kind of wraparound services as well. So it includes nutrition counseling, mental health counseling, general health education. It includes like breastfeeding support, and it also includes some additional dollars for targeted case management. And I think the goal of LB 857 overall is to work on improving, like I said, to improve the health of high-risk pregnant folks and to reduce the incidence of low-term birth weights and preterm births overall. This bill also had a really good hearing, and it successfully moved through all rounds of debate. I remember watching it as it was happening. I'm sure there was so much behind-the-scenes work that Aaliyah and I didn't see, but it's hard to argue. It's hard to argue with a program like this, and I think we're really excited to see what happens now that this bill has been passed, and to see what comes of that and what kind of supports become available to pregnant folks as well. Anything on 857?
I was just going to say, I think Senator Dungin really did a great job of like pushing that one forward and making sure that everyone was educated on what it did and the purpose. So that was, it was amazing work. And again, it just was like gliding through. I don't think any other bill I really saw glide that easily this session. So
I agree.
Slight messy again, sorry.
No, it was good. You know what? I think the Nebraska legislature can be a messy place. And that's the best way to say it.
As we saw, yes.
I think, okay, so So we have a couple of other priority bills. This was a combo bill. It was LB 1106 and LB 1107. This is the fourth and final of our real priority bills this legislative session. These two bills combined work to improve access to lactation consultants and breast pumps for Nebraskans with Medicaid so that newborns and their families have the resources that they need. We know that many Nebraskans face resources or face barriers to breastfeeding. I've not done it, which is a weird thing to say. But I know that it's hard, and I know that families need resources, and this bill works to provide some of that. So more specifically, this bill would require the Department of Health and Human Services to provide coverage for electric personal use breast pumps for every woman who's covered under Medicaid or their child if the parent or the birthing person isn't covered. And then it also provides a minimum of 10 lactation consultant visits to be covered under Medicaid, which I think is incredible. This bill was amended into LB 1215, which was Senator Hansen's overall Health and Human Service package bill. And this was passed. LB 1215 was passed. LB 1106 and 1107 were in it. So these changes must be put into place by January 1st, 2025. So as of next year, lactation consultants and breast pumps will be covered by Medicaid, which is a huge win for the state of Nebraska. It's a huge win for folks who are pregnant or birthing, and it's a huge win for Black women, femmes, and girls. Aaliyah?
Sorry, I'm texting our guest on this. She just hopped in, so I'm like watching. This is another one I'm just excited to see pass through. Another passage that's actually helping Nebraskans and actually putting something that needs to be in place.
We're doing the work.
Good job.
They're doing the work.
For once. So we're proud of that.
And I think those were, like I said, those were IVBG's 4 priority bills. We saw some passages, we saw some wins, we saw some things that still need further work that we aren't quite there yet on, but I think we'll get there. I think we're super honored and excited to have our first guest here in the waiting room who's going to talk about some of their legislative wins, and I will let Aaliyah bring the person in the room and introduce and talk to them.
Hi, Liv. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We are just going through all of our bills, so we're excited to have you. If you want to go ahead and let the folks know about you, where you work, what you've been doing this session, and then we'll start talking about LB 20.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm Olivia Larson, she, hers. I work at Rise for the incomparable Jasmine Harris. And this year, one of our policy priorities was LB 20. And so this has been the 8th year that it was introduced. And so it was like kind of the culmination of all of this work that's happened up until this year to get it here. And I've been part of that for 2 years. And so it's just been really kind of cool to see some of these things that we've been talking about. I've been talking about for a minute, that people have been, preparing for years and years and years actually come to fruition.
So for people who don't know what LB 20 is, can you tell us a little bit about what it does?
Absolutely. So in Nebraska, the only charges that can keep you from voting rights are a felony. And so anyone in jail, anyone with a misdemeanor, probation, anything like that, until you're at a felony, you are good to vote. Once you get a felony, up until 2005, you could never vote in Nebraska. In 2005, they changed it to a 2-year waiting period, which was kind of a negotiation between the people who didn't want it at all, the people who wanted it to be immediately restored. And then LB 20 was originally introduced in 2017 by Senator Wayne, and it passed, and then it got vetoed, and then it got reintroduced every year since. And it removes the 2-year waiting period. So once somebody is completely done with their sentence, parole, probation, any supervisory period, they're done. They can immediately become reenfranchised as far as like voting rights are concerned. And so one of the things that's been really exciting in this like reaction period, getting ready, it goes into effect July 18th, is that like trying to get people like aware of, okay, no, like 2-year waiting period's over. It doesn't matter if you're off, you're off. And so like just trying to make sure we're getting all the people who might have had like a sentence in another state, or, you know, it's been so long since they served and they didn't know when their parole got off and they just thought they were disenfranchised forever. And so it's been really, really encouraging to have conversations with folks, but we're also like, we want to know, like, what did you think was happening? And like, you know, because there's like so much misinformation out there. But it's so exciting that we finally got this done. And now we're just focusing on like how to get it out to people and how to like find the people who are affected by this and let them take their power back.
So I know you said we. Can you tell them a little bit about who that we is with the Voter Rights Coalition?
Yeah, so guys leads the 30 org deep, we roll deep coalition. They're like all across Nebraska, the members of the coalition. Some of them are, you know, elections based. Some of them are, you know, criminal justice based. Just folks who really care about this issue. And so, you know, the table, Civic Nebraska, Common Cause, ACLU, like have been kind of on like the steering side of things with us. And then, yeah, Jasmine and I have been kind of doing the lobbying portion of things. Now it's really exciting. The work changes from lobbying to outreach. And so we get to bring in more of those community orgs that don't necessarily have the capacity, but have been in the coalition with us this whole time. So, so we're all across Nebraska, and especially in places where we've got coalition members that are like more rural or more kind of like spread out, don't necessarily like live and breathe and die by the word of Lincoln and the legislature. We're really looking forward to being able to work with them and like pull them in.
Is there any call to action you have behind that you want to get put out?
So right now we have a couple different, so we had our press conference, I believe 2 weeks ago, right on the heels of LB20 coming out. We got some good articles, we got some good traction, which is awesome. Right now we are trying to steer people to our website, the coalition website, which is information for anybody who's been impacted, or like you have family that's impacted and you don't know what's like, if it affects them or not, or what's going on. It's getmyvoteback.org. Or .com, we got both. But it'll kind of walk folks through of like what that means if you're off parole or probation, off paper, like where to go if you're not sure, and then, you know, where to go to register to vote again, depending on what county you are, etc. With voter ID this year, it's going to be extra fun explaining folks how to register. I was
going to say that added layer of having to explain that voter ID is going to be real fun.
Yes. So it's like, we want to make sure we are as like upfront as possible. So we have our website, and then we are working right now on our outreach plan. So we have like a palm card in development, that we're going to have like folks who are doing Get Out the Vote and, you know, other organizing in the community, you know, going out there. We're going to do like canvassing, door knocking, in super heavily impacted areas by incarceration, and over policed areas. And then we're going to launch our like full campaign, etc. July 18th is when it goes into effect. So that's when like everything just kind of like revs up, and that's when our focus shifts to getting the folks registered and not just letting them know that they can register, because as we know, like that is different. So we're really excited.
Well, we know, I was going to say anything you want to tell us about your interim, but I think we kind of see where you'll be working during the interim, trying to get folks ready. Yeah. Anything that you want to leave us with before we let you go for the evening?
Honestly, so we've got the primary coming up next week. So I've been organizing volunteers for jail-based voting, because hand in hand with restoration, we're getting folks who are in jail, who do still have their right to vote, their ballots and everything. So if anybody knows anybody who is either interested in like volunteering and helping us get those ballots to folks on Tuesday, please let me know. And then also, you know, just if you know anybody who is impacted by this, like also make sure that they're, you know, getting in touch with us and, you know, following along, because July 18th is coming. And then also, you know, there's a lot of things before then that they can do to kind of like get ready and understand like what all this means. So,
Olivia, if there are folks that are interested in volunteering, what's the best way for them to reach you?
So they can email me it's olarson@csrise, and I can send that. I think Aaliyah has it. And then, yeah, just like if they call Rise and they ask for Olivia, that's also totally fine. We also have like a policy email. So if you don't remember my name, it's policy@csrise. And so either one of those will get to me, and yeah, we can get folks in the community and getting the word out.
Liv, thank you for all the work you've done, the coalition, all the work that they've done behind this. We appreciate it. We're really excited to see this pass through. Very excited for July 18th. Can you shout out that not the email, but the website one more time for people?
Absolutely. It's getmyvoteback.org, and it'll tell you everything you need to know.
Perfect. Thank you so much for hopping on with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to think about all of the folks who are doing. We'll talk about this at some point at the end of this call. All of the folks like in Omaha and Lincoln who are working on like such similar issues and the way our work intersects. Like I think Rise's like June launch of their voter registration campaign is going to be so exciting. And then spoiler alert for the end of this call, IVBG is also doing a voter registration and engagement campaign. We know that Heartland Worker Center is doing amazing voter registration work. We know that Black Votes Matter is doing amazing voter registration work. So it'll be so neat to see how we all kind of come together for folks who were previously incarcerated, for folks who are new or first-time voters, for folks who are returning voters and vote every year. It'll just be so great to see how our community comes together in that way.
It's always really fun to get in this space and be able to hear what everyone's doing. Mm-hmm. I think that sometimes we're kind of all in our little pockets. So then you realize like, oh, you're doing that too. So it's really fun when everyone gets that, oh, like maybe we can work together moment. Like, and just hearing everyone's big wins in these spaces is so amazing. And LB20 is a huge win for Nebraskans, and especially for those who deserve the right to vote. So.
And we had Olivia here today, but shout out to all the folks who worked on that bill. We know that it was a mighty effort, and we're just so appreciative to be a part of the work that you all have done.
Absolutely. So some of the other bills that we had passed that weren't super like our main focus, but things that we were watching. We had LB at 1087, which was to adopt the Hospital Quality Assurance and Access Assessment Act. So basically, this bill will allow access to a federal program that matches funds to help hospitals cover the cost for individuals with Medicaid. There was LB 840, which very excited about this one. I'm not going to lie. I was watching this the whole session from Senator McKinney, which is we testified in support of. Mm-hmm. And that one is to create a comprehensive poverty elimination action plan. Just hoping that this helps Nebraskans who are below that poverty line, who are struggling, helping them get up to speed and go further, honestly. And I think that it's not just, I think sometimes when we talk about things, people just think of Omaha and Lincoln, and it's like, it's not just that little pocket that is struggling or has issues. It's like there's a whole bunch of folks out there that are struggling in the same way that we are. So being able to see this plan in action will be amazing. Anything from you, Tay, on that one?
I don't know. I think that's such a good bill. I think so. One of the things that I find really interesting is that I know that I can count on, and I know that I can count on Senator McKinney to introduce bills that are about people and that are about the people. And I think there are several folks in the Nebraska legislature who I'm like, oh, I know I can count on you to do right by people. It's not just Senator McKinney, but I think that this is a good example of that. Like, I think Senator McKinney did a really good job on this bill in particular, and all of the advocates who worked on it, we testified on it, but like of listening to folks and folks' lived experience and taking all of those stories, taking all of that experience back and creating a bill that directly works to impact that. A good bill. I think we're excited that it passed, and we're excited to see kind of what comes from it. There's some interesting reporting measures in that bill that I'm eager to see that require cities in the state of Nebraska to report on the experiences of poverty in the state, and I am eager to see some of those when they start to come in too.
I feel like those numbers would be really interesting.
And I think if there's anything
that's getting really nerdy, like you want to see the stats.
I think if there's anything that So again, like me being a little bit messy, I think that if there's anything that we need in the state of Nebraska is we need data access, we need data availability, we need accurate reporting, we need all of these things, because I think as an organization, as advocates, as policy wonks, like I think we rely on this data to drive some of our programs. And I think one of the things that's interesting is that in the policy world, I think in an organization like IBBG, so much of our policy work is driven by lived experience of folks and stories that we hear. And I think that's true for a lot of advocate organizations. But sometimes I think when you start having conversations with decision makers and system changers, I think sometimes they're looking for those hard numbers for that data. And I think the good policy, the perfect policy combines that data, those numbers, those facts with lived experience. And I think that I'm excited for this bill in particular because I think we'll be able to bridge some of that in a cool way.
Well, and I think a lot of it will inform our work directly. So I'm excited to see it because I just think that this plan is an excellent plan. I'm sorry. It's one of my favorites of the whole session, just because I think it can have so much impact on communities across the state. And because, again, people focused. I love legislation that is folks focused, because I think that sometimes in Lincoln, we may get a little lost in the sauce on things. We may start talking about things that aren't necessarily important at the very moment that we're talking about it. So it's really cool to see when we have senators that are bringing bills that actually have been something they've gone out in community, they've come back with, and they're like, this is what I saw. This is from me talking to folks. This is what it's needed. So I'm very excited about that one. Yeah. Another one I'm excited about is LB 1102, which has LB 53, which names I keep saying which because it's like layered, it's like a cake. So like onion. You like that? It's like an onion. Onions have layers. So it will introduce May 19th, and it'll declare May 19th as El Haj Malik El Shabazz Day, or Malcolm X Day in Nebraska. He will be inducted on May 22nd into the Nebraska Hall of Fame. They'll have a whole ceremony down in Lincoln in the Rotunda. There's a sign up that we can probably have posted on our page where you can go and sign up to go down to Lincoln and enjoy this celebration. This is really big for Nebraskans. They've been working on trying to get LB 53 passed for a couple of years now. The eventual, really wanted to be like a statewide day off holiday, but even getting May 19th declared as Malcolm X Day is a huge, huge win. Shout out to the Malcolm X Foundation for all of their work on that. I know Shamika did, she was all over it, Lincoln, trying to get work done. So I am very excited.
Ghosts
in the background. That's life. So very excited about that holidays.
Aaliyah, isn't there either going to be or already is now a bust of Malcolm X also in the Capitol as a part of this kind of initiative to bring that awareness about Malcolm X?
Yes. So I can't remember. I have the article in there where they were showing like the artwork. It's already done. Everything's ready to go. So he'll have his home bust in the Rotunda. So I'm excited to see that. I kind of wish, I don't know that I can go on May 22nd, but I wish I could, because I really want to see what it looks like. I think that's such a huge honor, especially since born and raised here. I'm like from here, finally honoring a hero, in my opinion, from Nebraska.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think that's exciting. I think it'll be really good. And I know that even though you can't go, I know we have several IBBG staff members who will go there and be there and support. So it'll be good.
Our executive director, I know Ashley said she will be down there. Our comms director is going to be down there.
Our Catalyst manager who does our economic freedom work will be there as well.
I do believe that.
I'm call her by name.
And they have coordinated a bus that'll take folks down there. So if you're concerned about getting down to Lincoln, there is a bus that has been coordinated by the Malcolm X Foundation to get folks down there to celebrate.
And we can make sure that we share these links out as well so that you have them in an easy place to find.
Absolutely.
I think there are just a couple of more bills that we want to shout out of great work that we've seen this legislative session. I mentioned it very briefly at the beginning, but LB 62 was a Senator Michaela Cavanaugh bill. This bill helps to remove language barriers between doctors and patients by requiring the Medicaid to provide translation and interpretation services. So there are so many beautiful languages spoken in the state of Nebraska. This bill works to make sure that when a person is before their doctor, that they're able to, if they can't speak the same language, they're able to have that information that they need in a language that they understand. I think it's a really beautiful bill. I think this is the bill that the CHIP bill was attached to. So though the CHIP bill didn't pass, LB 62 definitely did pass this legislative session. We also saw LB 952, which was a Senator Day bill. I love talking about this bill because this is the bill that all of those young people in Nebraska like worked to activate around, and it was so cool to see. But LB 952 is a Senator Day bill that would have required Nebraska to participate in the summer EBT program, which would basically provide EBT benefits to families in the summer while the kids are home for school. So additional funding since the kids are home and not getting school lunch or school breakfast. We saw really, really incredible grassroots organizing around this legislative session where a bunch of kids and their families and educators came together in a rally, and their voices were so strong and so powerful and so incredible that Governor Pillen decided to change his mind about this issue and accept it for summer 2024. So in the summer of 2024 going forward, there will be a summer EBT program to support families, and the piece of legislation was no longer needed as a vehicle to move this policy forward because the community came together and said, hey, we need this badly. Do it for us.
We love to see the kids.
I love that.
I love that generation and hearing their voices and being in spaces with them. When I got to go to Black Girls League, just like hearing their stories and hearing how powerful their voices already are at such a young age is so inspiring. Mm-hmm. They are incredible. I got to go to the legislative day that they had for those that were in like the advocacy school that they're running through the table, and being down there and hearing them talking to senators and how informed they are. And I'm like, we don't give our youth enough credit for how informed they really are and how much they really care. It's incredible to see. So amazing work to the youth.
I think even at IBBG's own lobby day in March, I think the questions that the young folks were asking, like they are on it. They know what they want. They have ideas about how we can make things better. And it's just really exciting to see that like they will inherit, they will go on to lead this work. And I think that that's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the second to last bill that we'll mention is LB 855, which was a Senator Conrad bill. This bill would prevent Nebraska school districts from turning unpaid school debt to debt collection agencies. This is a bill that's been around in a variety of different iterations for several years, and this is the year that we finally saw it passed. So school districts can no longer turn over school debt to debt collection agencies, which can be a huge financial relief for some families in Nebraska as well. I think the last bill that we'll talk about in this little wrap up from this legislative session is LB 575. This is a bill that we did not support, that we wrote opposition testimony to. This was a Senator Kauth bill that would be harmful legislation that would prohibit trans and gender diverse kids from accessing the school activities and facilities that are consistent with their gender identity. I won't say too much on this because what you give power to and what you give voice to grows, and I don't want to do all that. But this bill was stopped. It was not an accident that it was stopped. There were advocates, there were senators, there were parents, there were kids who worked together to make sure that this didn't pass. And I think, Nebraska needs to be a safe space for trans kids, period. Nebraska needs to be a safe space for gender nonconforming kids, period. And I think by opposing this bill, by making sure that this didn't pass, we did that. We did one step of that. There's so much more work to do. We can always do better. But I'm really glad to see that this bill didn't pass. And I hope that if it comes back again in future years, that we can continue to block it as many times as we need to.
Period.
That's it. I don't have too much else to say.
That was a wrap because that was it. Like you say, giving power to things that don't deserve it. Period.
Period. I think that is the crashiest of crash courses of the Nebraska Legislature 2024. That's what we've been thinking about. That's what we've been doing. That's what we've been, talking to each other about. And now we get to share that with you all. Aaliyah, anything else to add? Like, as you look back on the Nebraska 2024 Ledge, what are your highlights? What are your highs? What are your wins?
Well, I mean, full transparency, went on a 8-month crash course in the Nebraska Ledge. So what you're seeing is after 8 months of me like diving headfirst in. So I think one of the big wins for me is just like I feel like I can talk about it and understand what's going on. Because when we first started, they would say things and I'd be like, a lot of words, very little very little clicking for me, babes. So it's really fun to be able to like participate in these conversations and have like meaningful things to say about it now. Very excited to see so many of like these bills that got passed, like the voter rights restoration, seeing that go through, being able to sit in calls and hearing those wins that are coming through, and the strategizing has just been amazing in the community this session, because people were in action fast. Call to action goes out, everyone's like, perfect, we got it. Like it was amazing to see and be a part of. So I'm very excited about that and excited for next year to see where we're at. Taylor?
Our policy queen, right? I think about all of the times that I texted you, like, what's happening? Did you just see that? Right?
You asked me a question and I'm like, I don't know.
But also you like, sometimes you would catch things that I didn't get. Like, did you see what they just said? Right? Like, I don't think I could do this policy work without you.
Our text thread is so funny. I'm not gonna lie to you. This session has just been me and Taylor. Like, did you see that? Like,
did you hear what she just said?
What did she just say? So, and I think that's one of my favorite parts of this session has just been being able to be in community with you. I say it all the time, but nobody I want to do this work with besides you. Just because your mind is so incredible, and if I ever had a question, I could be like, "Hey, break it down for me a little bit," because I don't get it.
Feel the same. Dream team, right? Dream team right here. I think that's like a good segue into our next little bit of conversation. I'll share what I'm looking forward to, what my legislative highlight this year. It was absolutely doula reimbursement. I had the opportunity to work on that bill really from the ground up, and we didn't see passage this year. But I was able to have so many incredible conversations, and I had the honor of holding so many beautiful birth stories. And those are stories, and that is an honor that I will hold with me forever.
You did an incredible job.
Woo! I think everybody that testified on that did such a great job. We had IBBG staff members testify on that, and there's a level of real testifying in front of the Nebraska legislature is scary. It is scary to be vulnerable in general, period, but it's also scary to share your traumatic story or your difficult story or your impactful story in front of a group of people who don't look like you. And I think that that's probably the thing I'm most proud of this experience, is that we were able to collectively support Black women sharing their story in front of the Nebraska Ledge. And anytime that happens, no matter what the bill is, that's a win. I think that's a win. I think when you can hold somebody's hand when they're being vulnerable and they're also creating sustainable collective change, I think that's exactly what we should be doing. And that's the exact reason why I do this work. So it was a good session. There are a lot of highs. There are a lot of lows. There are a lot of like, what just happened?
Literally a question mark. I don't know. Just me going, I'm going to close my phone now. I'm going to go on D&D. So, and again, you did an incredible job with doula reimbursement. You did all of your work. I know you did so much work, and public thanks for everything you did behind that.
And I think
just in general in our portfolio,
we're doing cool things in the interim too. Just because the legislative session has stopped or halted, doesn't mean that our advocacy work has stopped or halted. I think this is a good place too to talk about. We've just spent the past 48 minutes talking about our legislative advocacy work. We know that the legislature is inaccessible. You ain't got to tell us. We know, we've been there. We've been on the opposite side of that. And I think one of the things that this interim provides us is it provides us an opportunity to continue demystifying the legislative process. It provides us an opportunity to continue to think about how we engage in community in a meaningful way. And I think it gives us an opportunity to think about how policy and advocacy work happens outside of the legislature. And I think that that's just as important, if not more important, than what happens at the state capitol. We've got 2 cool things that we're doing in the interim. We've got a lot of cool things that we're doing in the interim, but only 2 that I'm going to talk about right now.
So, I only got 2.
I'm only going to talk about 2. That's all I got right now.
That's all I got at me.
The first one is the Protect Our Rights campaign. So IBBG is an active partner in the coalition that is doing the Protect Our Rights campaign. That is a campaign that is working to, a ballot initiative campaign that is working to protect abortion rights in the state of Nebraska. So if you have yet to sign the petition to protect abortion rights, or if you'd like to get involved to volunteer, you can visit protectourrights.com. You can find events and pop-ups of where you can sign. You can also volunteer and start collecting signatures. We're always looking for folks to volunteer. I'll also share that every single staff person at IBBG is out collecting signatures. Our board is out collecting signatures. This is a serious matter. This is something that we care so deeply about and is such a huge part of our mission as an org. We know that there is a what do they call it? Like a counter petition who is also out circulating right now. So every single signature counts. I'll also share, if you are somebody who's like, I can't make it to any of these events, hop in our DMs and we will find somebody to come collect that signature for you. Like we will signature collector on wheels.
Just hit the messages real fast because we will come to you. We will make sure you sign. It's not a problem.
Yep. I think that we're working to meet the goal of the number of signatures that we need to collect. I think we're excited to be in community with the other organizations who are doing this and all of the volunteers across the state who are doing this. So you don't just have to be in Omaha or Lincoln to sign this petition. This is a statewide effort and every single signature counts. So hopefully that we'll see that question on the ballot in November.
Speaking it into existence,
which leads us into November. What's November, Aaliyah? November is the general election.
It's election year. Woo!
So IBBG is super excited to launch a voter engagement, voter registration campaign that focuses on voters in North Omaha, specifically looking at District 11 and 13, but really focusing on all of North Omaha. We are providing voter resources and info in the form of toolkits. We're doing lives and community conversations to talk about what will be on your ballot. How do you decode the ballot? We are out in the community collecting signatures at community partner organizations, at events that are happening in the city. We're also hosting a couple of really cool events of our own, so stay tuned for those announcements. We'd love to have you there. And we'll host an election night watch party coming up here in November that we're excited about. So we're doing lots and lots of things, and none of this happens in a silo. We've got some really cool partners that are also doing these things that we're excited to work with. What else do you have to say about voter reg? What else do people need to know? Primary on May 14th?
Yeah, primary is Tuesday, so that's what you really need to know.
Go ahead and tell them about it, Aaliyah.
May 14th is the primary, the Nebraska primary. So make sure you are checking into your district and who is running, and then get out to the polls. They are open, I believe, until 8 p.m. It's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So get out there, go vote. Make sure you have a valid ID with you. With the new voter registration laws, you do need to have a valid ID, meaning that it needs to be something that has a picture of you on it. So whether that is your state issued ID, your driver's license, if you're a college student or a student in like school, just making sure you have your school ID with a photo on it. Please make sure you have those with you. If you forget it at the polls, it's okay. Things happen. Things happen. But make sure that you do your provisional. Make sure that they give you like the ballot in place of things. And then that following, you'll have a week to bring that identification to make sure that your ballot counts. So you will have until, I can't remember what that date is. It's like May, is it like 22nd?
We'll share that date, that official date.
Yeah. I'm like, it's that next week. But make sure that you are prepped when you get to the polls. I know a lot of folks still are learning about voter ID, so make sure you've got it with you. If you don't, you have other options. Make sure that they honor those at the poll, and get out and vote.
That's it. That's the message.
We'll wrap up, go to the polls,
I think that's a really good conclusion for this time that we've set. I think the biggest thing is we want to say thank you for staying with us through this year's short session, and your support of IBBG means the world. All of you who submitted a comment, all of you who contacted your senator, who came to the Capitol, anybody who spoke up to fight for Black women and femmes and girls in Nebraska, we see you. Anybody who signed the Protect Our Rights petition, anybody who has registered to vote or plans to show up on Tuesday, like, this fight requires all of us to be in it. And for those of us who are in it, all of you, we see you. We appreciate you. We're so glad to do this work alongside you. Any final words, Aaliyah?
Make sure you come party with us this summer and vote. Get registered to vote if you're not.
So many cool things. IBBG is opening a birth center, and we will have. Did I misspeak?
No, that's it. We'll have our new home.
We'll have a building.
Yay, I forgot. I guess we should say that IBBG has a home now. Like, we have our own building and things. So make sure.
We've got a really exciting lineup of events that are happening as a part of that ribbon cutting for a new building. Maybe birth center wasn't the right word, for a new building center.
You're right.
I don't know. Your face was like.
No, I forgot about it. I didn't really have it until you said it, and I was like, oh. You're right.
We're going to have a physical brick and mortar home. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be right on 24th Street. We're going to host so many events. We're going to have so many resources available to the community from that center. And I think we're really excited about some of the ribbon cutting things. So I know that we'll have Facebook events for all of those things up shortly. So stay tuned for those. Come to those. Also, humble, not so humble. What do you call it when you not humble brag? I don't want to brag. Shameless plug. That's what I was looking for. I'm going to teach yoga at the ribbon cutting, at one of the ribbon cutting events. So shameless plug. We've also got a really cool walk. IBG's inaugural first community walk that we're doing. There will be so many great
poets and all types of things. So very excited about that. I'm so glad you said it, because I really forgot we had a whole building coming.
I feel like I should have mentioned it earlier in this call, but it just came up. So I'm glad that we mentioned it at some point.
Yeah, no, that's huge. That's a very big thing we have coming up. And we'll be out there.
We'll be out there.
Trying people to vote. Hey, we're always around.
Love it.
So, I think that was perfect.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaliyah. Thank you to all of you. Thank you, IBBG. We're so excited to keep doing this work. If you have questions about policy or advocacy work or anything that we've talked about today, you can reach out to either Aaliyah or myself, and we're happy to help answer those questions. If you have ideas or things that you think about in terms of policy or advocacy that you'd like to brainstorm, I think we're always open to brainstorming. Let us know. We are your policy and advocacy team. So we're here to serve you. That's it.
That's all. That was good. Yeah. Well, I think that's all we have for this evening. Tay, thank you for hopping on. And I will talk to you later.
That sounds good. Talk to you soon.
We will talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Have a good night.